Hey guys, it's Mike from the Flashpoint Gaming here today with a Rift character creation. So before we start, there are two factions here, and I will give you a brief explanation on why they're at war and why they're fighting each other. So the Guardians are chosen by the gods, as you can see right here, and the Defiant took their fate into their own hands. So basically what happened is the Defiant turned away from the Vigil, which is like, I believe, the religion. I am not sure. And the Guardians are brought back from death to save the world from the corruption of dragons, because the Defiant used some type of power, some magical fuel that they took from dragons, and now they caused this giant disaster. And so now they have to stop this corruption, and they have to save the world. Well, the Guardians have to save the world. And the Defiant, I guess. But I am going to go with Guardians. But before, I will also show you guys the Defiant races here. But they are Mathosian, basically humans. Here are their racial abilities. Motivational Roar, they have an increased movement speed, and Legacy of the Shade, death resistance increased by 20. Next, High Elf. They have Angelic Flight, which means they can fly towards the selected area, and they have Grace of the Forest, life resistance increased by 20. Last but not least, on the Guardians is Dwarfs. They have Dwarven Breakfast, restores 8% health and mana each second over 13 seconds. And Miracle of Hammer now, water resistance increased by 20. Yeah guys, I'm sure you guys are like, what's with the small amount of races? Well, we'll get into that a little bit later. So now here we have the Defiant races. We have Eth, in other words, humans still, but they're just a little bit different. They have Agility, increased movement speed by 50% for 15 seconds, and Desert Dweller's Birthright, earth resistance increased by 20. Kalari, Camouflage, transforms into a fox for up to 30 seconds, and Legacy of the Fire Islands, fire resistance increased by 20. Last but not least, we have the Bamhi. They have Mighty Leap, which is kind of like what I'd guess about what the High Elves have, and they have Shallister Heritage, air resistance increased by 20. So as I just said, I'm going with the Guardians, and I will be a Mathosian. So here we have 4 basic main classes here, but these get a lot more in depth. So there's the Warrior, the Cleric, the Rogue, and the Mage. I'm sure if you guys have played an MMO before, you all know what they all do. Mages use magic, warriors use melee weapons, and rogues can use melee and ranged weapons. Clerics use like maces and shields and shit. So I'll be a warrior, but I will show you what all the other classes have to offer quickly. So with warriors, they have little subclasses, I'd say, that you can use. Like there's a Destroyer, offensive warrior who specializes in facing down multiple opponents at a time. Pathfinder, a support warrior who fights alongside their primal companions. Dark Thane, a defensive warrior who wields the power of the Plane of Death to destroy their enemies while defending their allies. And Hoplite, defensive warrior who wields a heavy shield, using it to protect themselves and their allies. Now, you see this last one here, Shock Trooper. Well, they are locked because you need to purchase. You need to purchase it to unlock it. Okay, let's go to Cleric next. They have Flamekeeper, a healing cleric who uses the forces of fire and life to renew and protect their allies. Death right here, a healing cleric who firmly embraces the death and awaiting in all of us. It is a tool to both relieve and cause pain. Now that one's also locked, and you'd have to purchase that. There's Thunder, an offensive cleric who flies into battle to strike down their foes with the might of a storm. An Arbiter, an offensive cleric who stands in judgment overall, combining life and death to strike down their foes from afar. And a Seraphic Guard, a defensive cleric who uses faith to shield them from the vicious assaults as well to mend minor wounds. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Let's go to the mage, Gravelord, an offensive mage who utilizes undead pets and death magic to destroy their enemies. A sage, a healing mage who heals their allies by dealing damage to their enemies. This build generally takes longer in solo fights, but has increased survival ability and excels in group combat. Pyromentalist, an offensive mage who utilizes powerful elemental pets and the destructive powers of the elements to destroy their enemies. And a Corruptor, an offensive mage who mixes death and fire magics to destroy their foes piece by piece. And a Spellblade, a melee mage who prefers fighting their enemies face to face. Now you have to purchase that one. Last but not least, a Rogue. There's a Huntsman, an offensive rogue who calls upon animal companions to savage their foes while standing back and raining death from above. Shadowstalker, an offensive rogue who strikes from the shadows and quickly overwhelms their foes. Planner Sentry, a teleporting rogue built to take the hits for their allies. This build works best with the group. And Battle Bard, guys. Everybody wants to be a Battle Bard. A support rogue who utilizes the uplifting power of music to increase the effectiveness of their allies and to heal minor wounds. And last but not least, we have a Flame Trooper, a highly versatile combat rogue who uses fire and death against their enemies. Now that one is locked as well. So I will be going with a warrior, a destroyer warrior. So let's see here. This right here can make the face wider or smaller. Right there looks good. You can have facial features look different. That looks good. I'll have green eyes. About in the middle there. Rotation about there. And eyebrows. That looks good. About a medium-sized nose or so, and I want to tilt up a little bit. There we go. And we want the mouth a tiny bit smaller. And we want to go with a blondish look, maybe, guys. And looks kind of interesting, huh? Yeah, I'll keep that. So now we change the hair. Yeah, Warhawk, just made for a warrior. So as you guys can see here so far, there is a lot of customization. And I love lots of customization. Hopefully it's not just me. No facial hair. Make him a tiny bit darker. There we go. He looks good. There we go. Oh, can't forget about his size. The bigger the better, right?
The king of Mythosia would have sacrificed the world to Regulos the Destroyer. The faithful rebelled against his heresy. We overthrew the tyrant and put his armies to the sword. Defeated in battle, he turned to the machines of the Defiants. Their devices drew upon the power of the dragon, a power they could not control. This is the day the rifts came. This is the day we died. But the gods of the Vigil intervened. Their messengers went among the fallen and ascended the worthy, not for their virtue, but for their might. In you, they placed their faith, their hope, and their power. You are our salvation. You are a guardian.
That's right, guys. You are a guardian. Well, that's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like, favorite, or maybe even click that subscribe button. That would help a lot. And I will see you guys next video. Thanks for watching. This is Mike from the Flashpoint Gaming signing off.